The night was still, the kind of silence that presses down on the air, suffocating. Lily sat at the edge of the lake, her eyes flicking toward the dark horizon where the trees met the water. The wind was still, as though the earth itself was holding its breath. Her phone rang once. A single, strange number that she didn't recognize. The voice on the other end was weak, trembling. "They know where you are," the voice whispered. The sound was a thin, rasping breath, like a ghost trying to speak. Static filled the line before the call abruptly ended. Lily's heart raced, her eyes scanning the shadows for movement. There was no one. No sign of life, just the faint ripple of the water against the bank. Then, as if summoned by the phone call itself, a sudden scream echoed through the trees. It was high-pitched, chilling, distant, but not distant enough. She jumped up, a sudden sense of panic seizing her chest. She moved to the edge of the water, her breath visible in the cool night air. There, floating just beyond the edge, something caught the light of her phone's flashlight. It was a wallet, strange in its appearance. A weathered leather surface, cracked with age, adorned with strange symbols etched into the fabric of its design, symbols that made no sense to her. Her pulse raced. This wasn't a coincidence. 31 years had passed since the fishing trip, and the mystery of her friend's disappearance had never been solved. Now this. A wallet, floating in the water, bearing symbols she had never seen before. A chill ran down her spine. Lily's fingers trembled as she reached for the wallet, its strange symbols still etched in her mind. She had to know more. This could be the key, the one thing that connected the disappearance of her friends with whatever had been haunting her for years. The memories flooded back, uninvited. The year was 1993, and it had been a perfect fishing trip. A trip that ended in tragedy. There had been 5 of them, friends who had laughed together, shared their dreams, and then vanished without a trace. No body, no sign of struggle, just gone. No explanation. And yet here she stood, staring at a wallet, as if it had appeared from thin air after all these years. Her mind raced. What did it mean? And why now? She stood up quickly, the water still lapping gently against the shore, the only sound breaking the silence. She couldn't stay here. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Lily stepped back from the lake, the cool night air biting at her skin. She glanced over at the wallet one last time, its eerie symbols glinting in the dim light. With a final glance at the water, she turned and walked toward her car, her footsteps echoing in the silent night. She wasn't sure where she was going, but she knew she had to get away from here, away from the memories that threatened to overwhelm her. The drive back was a blur, her mind spinning with thoughts of her missing friends. Had they left something behind, something that could explain their disappearance? The last time she saw them, they were alive, full of life, laughing, joking, planning their next adventure. The phone call. The wallet. It was too much to ignore. They had been taken, just like that. The pieces weren't adding up, and the mystery only deepened. When Lily finally arrived at her small, dimly lit apartment, she quickly locked the door behind her. She tossed her keys onto the counter, her thoughts still racing. She had no idea who had called her or why, but the weight of the wallet in her bag felt like a ticking clock. As the hours passed and the world outside remained still, Lily sat at her kitchen table, examining the wallet. Her fingers ran over the strange symbols, trying to make sense of them. Could it be a clue, a sign that her friends weren't gone after all? Could they still be out there, trapped in some dark corner of this world? The chill in the air seemed to grow colder, and Lily shivered, not just from the cold, but from the gnawing feeling of dread crawling under her skin. Something was coming. The night stretched on, but Lily couldn't tear her eyes away from the wallet. Hours seemed to pass in silence, the only sound in the room the occasional rustling of paper as she flipped through old photographs she found buried in her bag. Her hands shook as she glanced at the pictures of her friends, laughing, full of life. The trip. The memories of that time when everything had felt so normal, before everything went wrong. Suddenly, Lily's phone buzzed on the table, snapping her back to the present. She reached for it quickly, half expecting it to be the same strange number. But no. This time, it was a text message from an unknown contact. The message read, "You don't know what you're dealing with. Stop searching." Her breath caught in her throat. Who was this? How did they know she was investigating? Her heart raced again as panic began to creep in. She wanted to ignore it, pretend it wasn't real, but the reality of the situation hit her hard. Whoever was watching her knew more than they should. With trembling fingers, Lily typed back, "What do you want? Who are you?" The seconds seemed to stretch into eternity as she waited for a response, but when it finally came, the text simply read, "Stay away from the water." The message sent a shiver down her spine. She had to know more. She couldn't let it go. It was too late to turn back. Lily's breath was shallow as she stared at the screen, her pulse pounding in her ears. Stay away from the water. The words rang in her head like a death knell. They knew. Whoever was behind this knew what she had found, knew she was close. But how? The wallet had been left in the lake for decades. No one knew about her search. Or did they? The pieces were scattered, the puzzle incomplete, but Lily wasn't about to stop now. She had come too far. She thought of her friends again, of their faces before the trip. What had happened to them? The mystery had always loomed large over her, but now it felt real, dangerous, like something she couldn't escape. Her fingers clenched into fists. There was no turning back. Lily grabbed the wallet and her coat, the weight of both pressing heavily on her chest. She was going back to the lake. She had to know what had really happened, even if it meant confronting whatever forces had been waiting all these years. She had to face the truth. The answer lay in the lake, and Lily would stop at nothing to find it. The road back to the lake was empty, a narrow ribbon of cracked asphalt weaving through dark pines. Lily's headlights cut a thin path in the night, every shadow seeming to shift just out of sight. Her grip on the steering wheel tightened. She had told herself she was ready for whatever she might find, but the pounding in her chest said otherwise. The wallet rested on the passenger seat, its cracked leather catching the glow of the dashboard light. She glanced at it more than she should, as though it might vanish if she looked away. Her phone lay silent, but she couldn't shake the feeling she was being watched. No cars followed, no lights ahead, just the steady hum of her engine. She slowed as the lake came into view, the silver reflection of the moon stretching across its surface like a shard of broken glass. The air grew colder as she stepped out, her breath swirling into the darkness. The night seemed to listen. The lake was quieter than before, its surface so still it could have been glass. Lily stepped closer, the damp earth squelching under her boots. The moon's glow revealed the faint outline where she had first seen the wallet. She crouched, scanning the waterline for any disturbance. Nothing. No footprints. No sign that anyone had been here. A rustle came from behind her. She froze, heart hammering, turning her head slowly. Between the dark pines, a glint of something metallic flashed briefly, then vanished. "Hello?" she called, her voice sounding small against the stillness. No answer, only the whisper of the wind through the reeds. Her instincts screamed at her to leave, but curiosity kept her rooted. She moved toward the trees, each step crunching on fallen pine needles. The smell of damp moss filled the air. She caught a flicker of movement, a shadow retreating deeper into the woods. "Wait!" she shouted, but the darkness swallowed her voice. Branches clawed at her coat as she followed, the forest growing denser, the moonlight fading. The silence was oppressive, until a sudden snap of a twig made her spin around. No one was there, yet the sensation of being hunted clung to her skin. She stopped suddenly, ears straining. A faint rhythmic sound emerged, a splash, then another. The noise came from somewhere between the trees and the water, unnatural in its steadiness. She followed it cautiously until she reached a small clearing. There, half buried in mud, lay an old fishing tackle box. The lid was rusted shut, but symbols nearly identical to those on the wallet were etched into its surface. Lily knelt, brushing away leaves, her fingertips trembling. These markings weren't random, they were deliberate. A cold breeze swept through the clearing, and she swore she heard a whisper carried on the wind. Leave. Her fingers itched to pry open the tackle box, but a sound from the lake drew her gaze sharply. A ripple moving fast across the water's surface, though no wind stirred. She stood, clutching the box tightly, scanning the shoreline. The ripple grew, converging toward the spot where she had found the wallet. Her phone buzzed suddenly. She looked at the screen, another unknown number. Hands shaking, she answered. Silence. Then a slow inhale, followed by a voice she almost recognized. You shouldn't have come back. The call ended. Behind her, the ripples stopped. The lake went still again. The phone call left Lily breathless. She stood by the water, the cold tackle box still in her hands, her mind reeling. You shouldn't have come back. The voice was chilling, barely a whisper. It sounded like someone she knew, but she couldn't place it. It echoed in her mind, over and over. As the night grew deeper, Lily's fear began to morph into something else. Determination. She needed answers, and the lake, its dark waters, held the key. Lily turned back to the trees, stepping cautiously toward the path she had left behind. There was something there, a connection she couldn't deny. With each step, the shadows seemed to close in on her, but she didn't care. The faintest sound like footsteps came from behind, but when she turned, no one was there. She glanced at the phone again, nothing. She kept walking, her thoughts on the wallet, on the symbols, on the haunting voice that felt like it had known her all along. Her breath misted in the cold air. The closer she got to the edge of the water, the stronger the sensation that someone, or something, was waiting for her. As Lily stood, the water before her began to shift, though the air remained still. The surface of the lake broke, not with the ripple of wind or movement, but with the sudden appearance of something beneath it. Her heart skipped as the water churned unnaturally, forming swirling patterns around something large. Her breath caught, and instinctively, she took a step back, clutching the tackle box tighter. The water's surface began to part, revealing a figure, dark and obscured, but unmistakably humanoid. The silhouette stretched, elongated, and just as Lily opened her mouth to call out, the figure submerged, disappearing beneath the lake without a trace. Lily was frozen, the lake returning to its serene state as if nothing had happened. Her eyes darted around, looking for answers that would never come. She felt the cold, familiar sensation of being watched, but there was no one there. The lake whispered in eerie silence, daring her to stay. Shaken but resolute, Lily stumbled back, her feet kicking up gravel and dirt as she hurried to her car. The eerie sensation from the lake gnawed at her, but her mind kept returning to the figure, to the unsettling way it had appeared, and disappeared. She fumbled for her keys, her hands cold and slick with sweat. As she got into the car, she slammed the door shut, but the sound of something scraping against the vehicle made her jump. She twisted the ignition key, but the engine sputtered to life, hesitant. Her eyes flicked nervously to the rear-view mirror, expecting to see something she couldn't explain. But there was nothing. Nothing but the thick darkness surrounding her. Yet in the distance, she could see the faintest glimmer, a figure, or a light, too far to make out clearly. Lily pushed the pedal to the floor, her heart racing faster than the car could go. Something was out there. Someone was out there. And they had been watching her all along. Lily's mind raced as the car roared down the empty road, the wind rushing past her as the night air turned colder still. The figure, or the light, whatever it was, lingered in her thoughts. It felt too real to ignore. The same kind of feeling she'd had years ago. The same terror when her friends vanished, one by one. The memories flooded back, not in pictures, but in sensations. The darkness. The whispers. The road ahead was deserted, but Lily could still feel eyes on her. She couldn't explain it, but she knew. She was being hunted. It was then that her phone buzzed again. She reached for it without thinking, her fingers numb. The message, "You've seen too much," turned back. Her grip tightened around the wheel, her face pale. Who was this? Why couldn't they leave her alone? She glanced at the phone again, but it was already too late. The road ahead was no longer empty. The lights of another car appeared, too bright, too sudden, its headlights blinding. The other vehicle sped toward her. The other car drew closer, its headlights blinding Lily. Her heart skipped as she turned the wheel sharply to the right, the car skidding across the gravel road. She slammed the brakes, the tires screeching against the uneven ground. The other car didn't slow, didn't veer. It kept coming. Lily's breath hitched as she swerved again, narrowly avoiding the other vehicle, but it was too close, too deliberate. Whoever was in that car knew exactly what they were doing. And when she glanced back, the headlights disappeared into the blackness, vanishing as quickly as they had appeared. For a moment, everything was still. The only sound was her erratic breathing and the thudding of her heart. She was alone again, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare was just beginning. The road wound endlessly through the forest until Lily reached the outskirts of town. She didn't go home. She drove straight to the old bait shop. It had been boarded up for years, but tonight, a faint light glowed inside. Her heart pounded as she stepped out of the car. She remembered coming here with her friends before the trip, buying snacks and fishing gear. Now, it stood like a relic, forgotten by time. The boards on the windows rattled in the cold wind. She pressed her ear to the door. Voices, two men, speaking low, urgent. She couldn't make out the words, but she caught one thing: her name. She froze, her fingers tightening around the tackle box. The floor creaked under her weight, and the talking stopped. The door opened suddenly, spilling warm light onto the cold ground. A man stepped out, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, wearing a fisherman's coat. His eyes locked on hers, recognition flickering across his face. "You shouldn't be here," he said flatly. She recognized him, Tom Weaver, one of the last people to see her friends alive. "Where did you get that?" he asked, nodding toward the tackle box. Lily's voice trembled. "It was in the woods, by the lake." His gaze hardened. "Put it back, tonight." Before she could reply, a second figure appeared behind him, half hidden in shadow. She felt a chill, as though the night itself had drawn closer. Lily stepped forward, her voice firmer now. "I'm not putting it back. You know what happened to them." Tom's eyes narrowed, and for a moment his jaw tightened as if he might tell her. Instead, he glanced over his shoulder at the shadowed figure. "It's not safe here," he muttered. "Not for you, not for anyone who remembers." The second figure stepped forward, an older woman, late 50s, sharp eyes that seemed to see straight through Lily. "If you keep digging, you'll find them, but you won't like what you find." Lily's heart pounded. This wasn't just about the lake. This was about the people who'd been watching her for years. The woman stepped outside, closing the door behind her. "You have already seen more than you should. That box belonged to someone who didn't come back." Lily swallowed hard. "My friends?" The woman didn't answer. Instead, she extended her hand. "Give it to me." Lily shook her head. "No, not until I know the truth." The woman's expression darkened. "Then you'll end up like them." Before Lily could react, the woman turned and vanished into the night, moving faster than her age should have allowed. Tom stayed in the doorway watching her go, his expression unreadable. Tom finally stepped outside, lowering his voice. "If you really want answers, meet me tomorrow night at the dock, midnight, and don't bring that box." Lily's pulse quickened. "Why not?" His gaze was steady, almost pitying. "Because if they know you have it, you won't make it to midnight." He walked back inside, locking the door behind him. The parking lot was silent, except for the faint hum of a street lamp. Lily stood there, the tackle box heavier in her hands than it had ever been, the weight of 31 years pressing down on her. The night air was heavy with fog as Lily approached the dock. The moon was veiled in thin clouds, casting a dim silver glow over the still lake. Every creak of the wooden planks echoed too loudly in the silence. She gripped the tackle box tightly, despite Tom's warning. Her pulse quickened when she saw him standing at the far end, hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the water. "You shouldn't have brought it," he said without turning. Lily stepped forward cautiously. "I want answers, Tom. All of them." He finally looked at her, his face drawn and pale. "Then you're already in deeper than you can handle." Tom's eyes shifted toward the dark shoreline. "They didn't drown, Lily. That's what we told people. But they were taken." The words lodged in her chest. "Taken by who?" He shook his head. "Not who, what?" The wind picked up, and the water lapped harder against the dock. She glanced toward the trees, the shadows looking deeper than before. Tom stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That box belonged to Mark. He found something he wasn't supposed to. That's why he never came back." Lily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Before Lily could respond, the water near the dock erupted with a sudden splash. Both turned sharply. Something large moved just beneath the surface, its shape twisting unnaturally. Tom grabbed her arm. "We need to go. Now." But she resisted. "Is that them?" The shape vanished, leaving only expanding ripples. Tom's voice was urgent now. "That's not your friends, Lily. And if it knows you're here, it won't stop until it has you too." A deep, resonant hum vibrated through the dock, making the boards tremble under their feet. The humming grew louder, accompanied by faint whispers that seemed to rise from the water itself. Lily's grip tightened on the tackle box as the symbols carved into its surface began to glow faintly. Tom swore under his breath. "You brought it here, now it knows." Her voice was almost a whisper. "Knows what?" He didn't answer, instead pulling her toward the shore. But the whispers grew clearer, forming words she couldn't quite understand. The lake seemed to lean closer, as if listening. They reached the start of the dock when a voice low and cold came from the water. "Lily." She froze, heart slamming against her ribs. The voice was familiar, Mark's. She turned toward the lake, eyes wide. The surface was calm now, reflecting the moon perfectly, but the ripples carried the sound like a hidden current. "Help me." The plea hung in the air before fading into silence. "I'm draining into silence." Tom pulled her back, his voice shaking. "That's not him. It never was." The glow from the box dimmed, leaving only the darkness. The fog clung to Lily's clothes as she and Tom hurried into the tree line, putting distance between themselves and the dock. The whispers from the lake faded, but the echo of Mark's voice still crawled through her mind. "If that wasn't him, then what was it?" she asked, breathless. Tom didn't answer right away. "Something old. Something that's been here longer than any of us," he finally said. They stopped at a clearing where moonlight filtered through skeletal branches. Tom's eyes darted around. "We can't stay in the open." Lily's fingers tightened on the tackle box, its weight now feeling alive. They reached a rotting boathouse at the far edge of the lake. The wooden walls leaned at strange angles, as though time itself had tried to drag it under. Tom gestured for Lily to follow him inside. The smell of damp wood and mildew filled the air. An old canoe lay overturned in the corner, its hull scratched with the same strange symbols as the wallet and the tackle box. Lily knelt, tracing them with her fingers. "This is a message," she said softly. Tom's face darkened. "It's a warning." The wind outside moaned against the boards, like a distant cry. A sudden splash outside made them both freeze. Tom crossed to the door and peered out. The lake was calm, but ripples spread outward from somewhere near the shore. Then, from beneath the boathouse came the sound of dripping water and footsteps. Lily's heart pounded as the floorboards creaked beneath unseen weight. Tom grabbed a rusted boat hook from the wall, his knuckles white. "Back away," he whispered. The footsteps stopped. Silence filled the air, thick and suffocating. Then, a voice from the darkness. "You can't hide from us." The voice was neither fully male nor female, but something in between, distorted and hollow. Lily clutched the tackle box tighter as cold air rushed through the boathouse. The symbols on the box began to glow again, casting a pale light on her hands. Tom moved to block the doorway. "Stay behind me," he ordered. A shadow slid across the water outside, slow and deliberate, too large to be human. The floor creaked again, this time closer. The boards beneath Lily's feet trembled, as if something enormous moved beneath them. Without warning, the floorboards cracked, and a dark water-slicked hand shot up through the gap, its fingers long and jointed in unnatural ways. Lily screamed, stumbling backward. Tom swung the boat hook down hard, and the hand withdrew with an inhuman hiss. Water gushed up through the splintered boards, flooding the boathouse floor. "Run!" Tom shouted. Lily bolted through the side door, the glowing box still in her grip, as the entire structure groaned under some unseen force rising from the lake. Lily ran through the fog-shrouded forest, her breath ragged, the glowing tackle box pressed tight to her chest. Behind her, the groaning of the collapsing boathouse faded, replaced by the distant churn of water. Tom was close behind, urging her forward. "We're not safe yet," he shouted. The trees seemed to close in, branches clawing at her sleeves. She burst into a small clearing, the lake now visible through the skeletal trunks, its surface perfectly still, as though nothing had happened. That stillness felt wrong, like it was waiting. They reached the clearing's edge when a deep rumble vibrated through the earth. The lake's surface began to swirl, drawing the mist inward. Lily stopped, transfixed. From the water's center, a dark spire-like shape began to rise, dripping black liquid that shimmered unnaturally in the moonlight. "That's what took them," Tom said, his voice low, almost reverent. The symbols on the box pulsed in time with the swirling water. Lily realized the box wasn't just a relic, it was connected to whatever lived beneath. The swirling grew violent, sending waves lapping at the shore. Lily felt her legs tremble, but she stepped closer, compelled. The whispers were louder now, forming her friends' voices, Mark, Jenny, Paul, calling her name. Tom grabbed her arm. "It's not them. It wants you to believe it." But her heart ached at the sound, and she found herself holding the box out toward the water. The glow intensified, spilling pale light across the clearing. The black spire shifted, almost leaning toward her like a predator scenting prey. The air turned electric, and a sudden pull yanked at Lily's body as though the lake itself had hands. She dug her heels into the muddy shore, but the force was relentless. Tom wrapped his arms around her, fighting to keep her back. The box grew unbearably hot in her hands, and the glowing symbols began to fracture, thin cracks spreading like spiderwebs. A deafening roar erupted from the lake, drowning out the whispers. Lily screamed, clutching the box as the spire lunged forward, sending a spray of freezing water over them. With a final desperate cry, Lily hurled the box into the lake. It hit the surface with a blinding flash, the spire recoiling as the glow sank into the depths. The water went still instantly, the mist dispersing like smoke. Lily collapsed to her knees, gasping. Tom stood beside her, eyes locked on the now empty lake. "It's not gone," he said quietly. "You just made it wait." In the silence, far beneath the water, something shifted, watching.